All right, so today we're really diving into this whole Google Cloud thing, and specifically, this Gemini for Google Cloud. People are saying it's like GitHub Copilot, but specifically for Google Cloud. We're looking at Google's own stuff on this, by the way, just so everyone knows, their own documentation, which, as of right now, is updated as of 2024-10/09. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Because they're not just like taking some generic AI and saying, hey, look, Google Cloud. It's actually a large language model.
An LLM?
Yeah, an LLM, exactly. And it's trained on like this really specific data set. You've got your public code in there, of course, but also like a ton of Google Cloud specific information.
So it's more specialized then.
Yeah.
Less about general coding help and more like having someone who really knows Google Cloud by your side.
Exactly. It's all about making the suggestions actually relevant to what Google Cloud users are doing, no matter what they're working on.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, but how does it actually use all that data? Their docs mention user contextual information, but also that it doesn't save your prompts or responses. Isn't that a bit, I don't know, contradictory or something?
It's a good question, and I think it gets to the heart of why people are sometimes hesitant about, AI and data privacy and all that. The key here is that Gemini is what we call stateless.
Stateless.
Right. So it uses context, your project ID, what Google Cloud product you're in, that kind of thing, to give you tailored suggestions right in that moment. But it doesn't keep a record of your actual code or data once you're done.
So it's helping me keep my work safe, even though it's using that information to, actually help me. How does that work?
Think of it like this. Like imagine an assistant, right? They have this incredible memory, but only for the task at hand. So they glance at your work, give you amazing advice, but then as soon as you move on, they've already forgotten the specifics.
That's actually pretty cool. But shifting gears a little bit, whenever we talk about AI writing code, there's always this elephant in the room about plagiarism,
Yeah, definitely a valid concern. Google's addressing it with Gemini in a couple of key ways. Firstly, it's built to generate original stuff, but let's be real, sometimes it might pull from existing code or even directly from documentation.
And that's where things could get a little messy, legally speaking, right?
Possibly, which is why Google built in this whole system for attribution, like a superpowered citation tool that works live. And here's the really interesting bit. Generative AI indemnification.
Wait, what was that again?
Basically, they're so confident in Gemini's ability to make original content that they'll actually back you up if somehow you get hit with a copyright claim.
Wow. They're really putting a lot of faith in this. It sounds like they are really serious about originality. Okay, but let's get practical for a second. Their site mentions it working with everything. Gemini Code Assist, BigQuery, Colab Enterprise, databases, Looker, even Security Command Center. It's kind of a lot.
It really does show you how much they want to integrate Gemini into the core of Google Cloud, not just have it be this separate thing.
It's like they're going all in on this whole Gemini thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's not just about, adding it everywhere for the sake of it. Take Gemini Code Assist, for example. It's not just, here's a code snippet, good luck. It can actually look at what you're coding, like right now, what files you have open, and use that to give you better suggestions.
Wait, hold on. Didn't we say it doesn't store my code? So how can it analyze it like that on the fly?
That's the really cool part. Because it's stateless, remember, it can process information really efficiently in the moment, so it kind of reads your code without keeping a copy of it. Like having someone peek over your shoulder, but, in a good way.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. But let's say I'm doing something really complex, like, I don't know, building a data pipeline in BigQuery. How would Gemini help me there?
So you're up to your eyeballs in SQL queries, trying to optimize everything, and boom, Gemini pops up with a suggestion. Maybe it's about restructuring your query based on your specific data and even the latest best practices for BigQuery.
So no more late-night Stack Overflow searches? That's a win in my book.
Exactly. And it's not just for the SQL experts either. Think web developers, data scientists, security analysts. There are so many potential use cases here.
And it's not just limited to English language code either, right? They've got support for other languages.
Well, yeah, definitely. Google's all about global reach. We're talking English, German, Spanish, French, Indonesian, Italian. You've got your Brazilian Portuguese, simplified Chinese, Japanese, Korean. They're not messing around.
That's a pretty impressive list.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, does it really work the same across the board? Or is it more like results may vary depending on the language?
Well, that's the big question, right? Google's saying they've made some big leaps on the multilingual side, but you know how it goes. Sometimes real-world use is a little different. I think it'll depend on what you're actually using it for,
Hmm.
how complex the task is, the language itself. It's early days. We need to see how it all plays out.
So maybe not quite the holy grail of AI for everyone just yet.
Not just yet, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And just the fact that they're supporting so many languages right off the bat, that says a lot.
Definitely. But let's zoom out for a second. What does this all mean for someone listening right now? We've talked tech, we've talked about the applications, but how could Gemini actually change things for them?
Honestly, I think Gemini could completely change how we use Google Cloud. And I don't just mean making things a bit faster or easier, though it does that too.
Right.
This is about fundamentally changing how we interact with the platform.
Okay, now you've got my attention. How
Yeah.
so?
Imagine no more jumping between a million tools, trying to find answers yourself, getting stuck troubleshooting. Instead, you've got this AI assistant with you constantly, guiding you, even anticipating what you need, and it's all tailored to what you're doing at that moment.
So Google Cloud becomes less of a toolbox and more of a partner.
Exactly. And that's huge. Whether you're a Google Cloud Pro or just starting out, it could make the cloud way more accessible to everyone.
That's a really interesting way to put it. So we're not just talking about a shiny new gadget for techies here. This could change how businesses, organizations, even just everyday people get things done.
Absolutely. That's what's so exciting about all of this. AI isn't just some abstract concept anymore. It's becoming part of our everyday tools. And Gemini for Google Cloud is a perfect example of that.
It's like, remember when smartphones were just these cool things, now we can't live without them? Is Gemini going to be like that?
It's definitely on its way, and maybe even faster. We're still early, of course, but the potential is huge. And that's what I hope our listeners take away from this.
To wrap things up, I want to leave everyone with this. How could Gemini actually change the way you work? What would be possible? What challenges could you overcome? It's something to think about.
Definitely worth thinking about. And for anyone who wants to go a bit deeper, I'd recommend checking out the Google Cloud website. They've got a ton of information about Gemini, what it does, how people are using it.
Consider that your invitation to go down the rabbit hole. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.